Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. And with that in mind, let's just dive into Mr. Craig Wright's little, can't remembering if he read or wrote the white paper.
Back in 2008, had this section on how identity worked in Bitcoin. I remember reading it, probably when I wrote it. How identity worked.
Oh, boom. There we go. That was a little bit of a tidbit from Danny Knight here with this little snippet from Mr. Craig Wright's talk on 2019 in Toronto's Coin Geek conference. Thought that was quite funny. I remember reading it probably when I wrote it. Yeah. I remember reading Fooled by Randomness probably when I wrote it too. In a different alternate reality where anything is possible. Anyways, that was sent to me this morning. I thought it was quite fantastic. I did want to share that with all of you guys. We're going to dive in and take a look at the charts today, obviously. That's where we're headed with this. Thank you all for joining us. For those of you that already know you like this content, give us a thumbs up. If you get later on and you think we do a horrible job, remember to give us those thumbs down right from the get-go. Oh, wait, here we go. There's the screen everyone wants. Bitcoin's price over the last 24 hours has been, to say the least, exciting. I think what's important again here to remember, we went over this last night, is kind of the emotional feelings that goes into trading. There's a great quote that says, you can make a lot of money from a bad investment and you can lose money from a good investment. And this is really the kind of the discipline that comes into understanding strategy and strict behavior and the real acquisition of wealth over time. So Bitcoin actually did print something that looked very, very bullish for us, both on the daily and the weekly. We went over that last night. I will quickly recap that again today. I'm going to reserve most of the end of the show for answering your guys' questions and thoughts. So last night we went live. We just caught right at the break of $9,000. We were part of history together, recording it as it was happening. It's a new news, ladies and gentlemen. Watching things happen as they happen live together. It's the new way to do it. But this tweezer pattern that we saw here on the weekly was beautiful. And again, this I think you can call it an absorption candle. I'm just going to kind of repeat some of the sentiments for anyone that missed out on last night's show. This sent us up from around 8,900, popping all the way up to 9,300, 9,400 at the candle wick here. Now, this is generally a really bullish remark. Now, I've been reading around a bunch of other chartists, analysts, technical analysts. And one of the things that we're all kind of seeing in common right now is this really interesting relationship between multiple patterns taking place. It's one of the reasons why I do think that we're going to run somewhere between the $11,000 and $12,000 range. And just for fun, we're going to grab from the top of the candle here all the way down to the bottom. And we're going to post ourselves up here with a Fibonacci retracement tool, something we haven't put up in a while because we've been watching a little bit more of the minutia. But what's really interesting is you actually find a lot of strong support and resistance, not only at the cloud here on the weekly, its top being around 12,650, but also the 618 on the Fibonacci extension tool. Now, the reason why this is important is because we're trying to chart the emotional happenings of the universe at large. At least that's how I like to perceive this game that we're in. So when we see multiple reasons why we should jump up to the $12,000 area, we've got the 618 line, a very, very hard line of accumulation and resistance on any chart. We also then have the potential of this abstract cup and handle or skillet and pan. We weren't really sure, boasting around a 60% up, which would be also equivalent. Sorry, that was not the right cup. We were actually in on the hourly when we did that. I believe it was 30% from this bottom sweep here. Yeah, it was approximately 20 to 30%. So if you're 20 to 30% on top of here, you end up right around the $11,000 range, which could be the potential of the cup. There's also a few other formations. So with pattern recognition here, what's interesting is that not one pattern is going to give you the signal that you're looking for. Sometimes you'll see overlapping patterns, and this again just increases the strength and the likelihood of us going to these particular areas. So we saw this, we were watching this as a cup and handle. It didn't actually I mean, you could see that the handle maybe was even on the opposite side of the cup here. But the point of this is this smaller cup and handle is the one that we are looking at that can represent a larger move into the $11,000 range on the 1 hour. Now on the weekly, again, it seems very likely that we're just going to pounce all the way up to the top of not only just the 618, but the top of the cloud here between 11,000 and 12,000. Now, this would be probably the ultimate bull trap if it were to retrace. Again, I think part of one of the interesting aspects of what we're looking at here is whereabouts in the market do we end up as things are going. You know, it's a real definitive course of nature to see something go up and go, yeah, it's just going to stay up, right? Hopefully the plane we just got on is going to stay up in the air, but it might not. There's the black swan events where it could come landing and crashing down. So again, a lot of what this is, the reason why we chart daily isn't because we're trying to figure out and predict what's going to happen. It's because it gives us the best mode of analyzing what's happening, not what's going to happen. So again, here I'm going to take a look at Bitcoin just a little bit further and get into the minutia of some of this, because again, I think see, the reason why the bears are the ones that usually do well in the markets because they're the ones that have been through market crashes before. They're the people that understand the probabilistic outcome of total crash and failure burns, which happens all the time. Outliers are not as unpredictable or as unforeseen as we might like to think. We get used to the ball of ice and rock that we're living on considerably being somewhat of a stable place to live, even though there are massive climactic shifts in the past that show us otherwise, and that may occur very, very rapidly in terms of what we think is slow-moving. No, I don't want to digress too far, but I'm sure for those of you that listen to Robert Schoch and some of the other geologists like Randall Carlson, we know that in the blink of an eye, things seem to change. It's not just a slow-moving growth in geology as we used to think. So just like in the Bitcoin markets, when we see this massive growth and no real point of retracement yet, it starts to get a little tedious. Now, I do suspect that, again, on the hourly, this is why we watch as closely as possible, because as soon as we broke on the upside of the EMA for both your 200 and 314 days average, we started to excel very, very quickly. We came back and tested it one more time, and as soon as that happened, we couldn't even get below the middle of the bear claw. So now we get to see, do we test the mid of the bear claw here, which would bring us to around 89.86, and then consolidate even further before continuing upwards just above that previous kind of box range. So if we move out to the daily, again, what I want to show here is that there's actually a few charts that we can pay attention to. I'm not great at using the pitchfork, so you guys will have to excuse me for kind of messing this one up, but I believe it comes down something like this. I messed it up, didn't I? Okay, I want to try that one more time here. I don't use the pitchfork often, so again, you'll have to excuse me. We go from the bottom of the trend. Oh, sorry, Jesus. Okay, from the bottom of the trend to the mid-range here. So, where was this? This trend line. Oh yeah, trend line dates back all the way to here. Something like this. Oh, I got to turn the sound off. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Don't want that coming through. I'm not very good at using this pitchfork, but the point of this is there's a downward trend line. I can draw it as single lines here. We had the first trend line that came down very hard here. As a matter of fact, as soon as we saw a breakout, it's probably a bit better to draw this on the daily, I guess, and just give us a little more room. But it doesn't matter. I'll be rough with this. It doesn't have to be perfect in the way we're looking at it. So we saw this kind of defining trend line. As soon as we broke out of this area, we came up with a lot of steam and momentum, and you actually have another defining trend line which took place right around here. You want to keep them equally spaced apart. Boom, there it is. So we've now actually broken outside of this channel, and there's technically another one that would coexist right. Let's move this line up. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bad at drawing this. I should make sure I practice drawing with the pitchfork before I jump online. And here's the other kind of trend line. These are rough right now, okay? These are supposed to be equidistant apart, and apparently Tiho can't draw things equally distant. These are all the same line, I swear to God. Anyways, the point of this is, when we've come back down to test this line here, we're actually not only above the EMA, in the mid-range of the cloud on the weekly, so we're printing off very bullish signals, at least for the short term in Bitcoin now. So I think this run up to 13,000 is what comes next. Where we go afterwards, again, we're just going to have to watch and wait and see. Again, for that, again, you just start to dive into the minutia. You look at the daily, you look at the 4 hour, look at the 1 hour, and you start to see the refined picture of what's taking place on more of a minute-to-minute basis. So here, the last time we tried to bounce up, we couldn't actually get up with volume into the $9,300 area. So now Bitcoin's definitely going to come down and test the $9,000 area, which makes sense. It may even actually test around 88 to 86 as well. Now, those are, again, well, actually, I would move 86 off the table for now. We're still quite bullish. Everyone's in FOMO land, even myself last night. I'm like, we're going to $10 million. We already knew that eventually, hopefully, right? Either that, or I hope we break through and figure out fusion quickly enough to understand that we live in an infinite reality and we need not think about scarcity. I actually think it's one of the very negative dystopian ideas about starting to try to manifest a world specifically based around the understanding of scarcity, when from all the evidence that I've seen, we live in an infinite reality. So why do we not have infinite energy? Also then releasing the friction in which we have in money, because we need to store energy, which is what money is, so that we can put it into another place later at a later date, like how I would save food in a fridge to some degree. So if we break that boundary, I think it changes the entire concept of money as we know it, and things just can become tokens of gratitude. Hell, maybe we even go back to using shells at that point, because shells are pretty. I'd accept a shell, right? As long as there's infinite energy, there's no reason to save money. Anyways, totally different side topic. I wanted to go in and take a look at some of your guys' questions. I'll actually use this time as well to say thank you to all the fathers in the world that do a great job of raising children, whether they're their own children or not. I think that's the other story, is that fathers aren't necessarily always the people that birthed you. I have a great dad and father, so I'm not saying that against them, but I've definitely seen the case in other children's life where, as a man, if you step up to the role of being a peer and providing at least understanding to others, you can take upon the role of father as well. So thank you to everyone in the world that's helping, all the males that are helping children grow with more education, safe places to live, all that wonderful stuff that good fathers do. Anyways, I'll just take that moment there. Remember to, again, give us those thumbs up. Go to Twitter, follow us there, Instagram, Facebook. Go down to the links below to join our community Telegram channel, or if you're ballsy and you know how to play the game, join our private Telegram club. We do newsletter. We update the notes. We've got a new teacher on board to help keep some of this stuff up, because it's just way too much work for one human being. So while I'm there, I'm also going to say thank you to all the admins. It's a beautiful Sunday morning, a little later to the table than I would have liked. But just with that in mind, I think one of the next interesting topics is what is going on with all the altcoins. This is really what we've been playing and trading off of in the background. So I'm going to use one of my favorites for the last little while, which is Raven. So essentially, the whole point of this game for me is to acquire more Bitcoins so that I can own more assets in general, right? Same thing why I build business is because I know that if I invest at an equity level in a business and I wait 2 to 3 years, 5 years, my return on my investment is like significantly higher than if I just go in and work a regular job, because I can be fired, like I can be replaced. It doesn't matter. What good am I to a company if I'm just a person that wants a wage? I'm actually kind of useless to some degree. I think the real next endeavor is finding I guess the people that are focused on providing value to others, regardless of if there's a return on investment or not. I think that's where the next big entrepreneurs really kick off, because there's a whole new level of business wave coming in. So with Raven is a great example for a few reasons. It has a lot of really nice fundamentals. If you go to CoinGecko, you can check the market cap is quite low, which means it doesn't necessarily need a whole lot of volume to go up very well. So if we know that we have a token, we followed Raven now for a few big turns and spins. So one of the reasons why we want to keep our eye on it is because we don't believe it's done. So let's use Raven and Digibyte as our current comparison. All the private members will know exactly why I'm doing this, and I think it makes sense for everyone to kind of see, at least in short. So in short here, if we go to the market cap and look at Raven, we can see there's wow, look at this, a $240 million market cap for Raven. That's just phenomenal. I remember, where were we? Back in February, look at this, $33 million. Do you all remember this? I remember when we were looking at Raven way back here. look how much the market cap has gone up. So here we actually see some of the recurrent spikes in price. Our first one took us up to 110 million. We dropped back down to 33, and now we're up at around 256 million. So one of the reasons why this is important is because it's a very, very real relationship between the actual price of a token and here, look at this. We boasted a high of 1.48 billion when it first launched in March 2017. So there's a lot of room to go back to the previous all-time high in market cap. Now, if we go back to the price again, we'll look at it from a much more beautiful angle here with our black, colorful, what do you call it? Lakers colors. Okay, so Raven, we've actually put our original, our post buy boxes down here, somewhere around the 430 range. Although I would very, very likely speculate that at least for the myself, I probably, well, I'm going to be, not probably, I'm going to be boasting a few smaller areas in here too. Just because I think these were great points of entry. As we see, we're right on the 200 moving average, and we know that when this bird flies, there's a lot of interest into it. So we've been following down on the daily right below the cloud. So it wouldn't take much for us to get into the cloud. Actually, on the daily, we have not touched the cloud yet. That's why you can see that even though there's positive momentum, all my candles are still yellow. That's important for a few reasons. We'll get into that later as we grow. But the important thing here is as you go down into the time frames, we see that the previous bounce that we had right outside of our buy range represented almost a 50% movement, right? So even if you took only a box range of that sell during the breakout, you're still looking at a 20 to 30% movement. Well, Bitcoin during that same time frame, let's see, what day was this? May 30th to June 2nd. So if we go to May 30th to June 2nd in Bitcoin, here you have a price fluctuation of 12%. So there's actually, there's a double correlation here, right? First off, you have Bitcoin moving in the opposite direction, which boasts movement into Raven's price in dollar terms versus Bitcoin. But you also have the fact that this is a much more, let's say, volatile asset in comparison, so that now during that same price frame, instead of 12%, you have a 50% move to the upside. So this is why I think swing trading is such of an interesting point. And it's also why I think, and why we warn everyone, don't do this. Only do stuff like this if you're very confident in your ability to acquire wealth on the long term. If you know that you're a dentist and you're badass, you didn't just win the lottery, like this isn't just by luck. I didn't get here by luck. I've done this before. I will do it again. Even if Bitcoin wasn't here, still doing fine. Right? Now, the point of this is that's not luck. So that means I know that I've fuck up everything in a matter of seconds. So what we like to see with Raven is that, okay, well, let's look at the much bigger picture here with Raven versus Bitcoin's price in terms of, and let's just use Raven and Digibyte again for these two examples. So let's go from February 25th to the top boast of March 25th. So this is a 30-day period where Raven stoked in a 430% range from candle body bottom to candle body top. So again, February 25th to March 25th. We'll do the same thing with Bitcoin on the weekly from February 25th. Okay, February 25th to March 25th. Okay. That was okay. So in that time frame, Bitcoin moved 6% and Ravencoin moved 400. Okay, so this is the one thing that's important, is to learn how to get the fuck out of a trade, right? So say you had not exited Raven. Now you're down 50%, so you've lost the effective 200% that you were up on the top. Now, that's still 200% higher than Bitcoin over this same extended period, even though Ravencoin has dropped down. So in this short-term minutia, Ravencoin has produced much better gains. As a matter of fact, if you were to go back to October, up to this high, you're looking at almost a 400% increase. It's not even worth it. This is why, again, I think learning how to enter and exit fundamentally explosive trades is important, because there are very short-term possibilities to take this pattern and turn it into a profitable return of investment, right? So just like with Raven on the short term, you have a 50% gain versus a 12% drop in Bitcoin over the same period of time. The reason this is important is because if you know how to get in and get out of a fundamental trade, then Bitcoin was tasty. Same thing happened with Litecoin, although on a slower time frame. You saw a bounce off the 200 moving average on the daily. Yes, on the daily here, we had our entry targets. And then you saw an extension of 50%, right? So here, same days almost, I think, pretty close. May 24th to June 10th for 50% increase, and then May 24th to June 10th with Bitcoin. May 24th to June 10th. So we're talking about here to June, what date? 1874, 13. So again, you saw around a 12% loss in Bitcoin's price, 15% approximately. And these are the time frame interests, right? These are why they're like, it's Litecoin is almost acting as a short against Bitcoin with leverage, except it's nowhere near as risky because you have an underlying asset. You can't get wiped out. I actually prefer, this is basically leverage trading to me. I look at Litecoin and Raven as leverage trading against Bitcoin's price, because when Litecoin here boasts 140% move from December to April, versus Bitcoin's just slight variation, it's yeah, they almost act as leverage trades without the fear of getting totally wrecked. Like, I don't think anyone would ever get totally wrecked in Bitcoin because we have multi-years of data of it going back to the top. Just fucking be patient and it will go up there, and just make sure you sell back into Bitcoin and everything worked out fine. But look, again, this is why I don't think just buying and hodling Litecoin is an answer to anything. I think that it stays relative to Bitcoin's price, and if it's going to act as a currency, much like we think it will with atomic swaps, then it's going to stay relative to Bitcoin. Even no matter how much it goes up in price in US dollar terms, if it stays relative to Bitcoin, it's unimportant in my mind, unless you take advantage of these swings. And again, this is what I think is so important. Anyways, I know that was a little bit of a long-winded rant, but the reason I wanted to go into this was actually then to lead into DigiByte. It's another one of these variations in what I believe to be extremely important and very undervalued assets in the class. So here you can see we've already drawn up entry ranges for this particular area based off the risk adjustment. Again, this is only for people who know how to lose money. If you don't know how to lose money and fucking smile and laugh about it, you don't belong here. Because part of the game is actually learning how to be stoked about everything that you do, whether it was a mistake or not. Because if if you make a mistake and you didn't learn the process, you didn't gain anything from the experience. So with something like DigiByte, the reason why it's important, and why I kind of jokingly say, you know, for people that are able to lose money, it also means that you know how to make a lot of money, because you can't lose money you don't have. Well, that's not entirely true. I guess you could go take a loan from the bank, but then there's no real accountability. That's what the banks did. The banks took out huge loans, and then in 2008 we had to fucking bail them out, and nobody else was accountable. How did that happen? Like, what bullshit? Anyway, so apparently you can take out loans and not be accountable. What the fuck am I talking about? See, the world's in total la-la land, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, I don't want to go too far off the point of course here, but this is what happens when you start to ponder the monetary reality that we're living in right now, because it's total acme nonsense. So this is actually still represents a nice entry point area between 100. Not financial advice. Do not do anything I say. In fact, yeah, don't ever do anything I say. Listen to as many people as you possibly can, and don't do what any of them tell you. You have to come up with your own situation. So DigiByte right now is one of these assets that I consider to be extremely undervalued, with the potential of an easy 150% return based off Bitcoin's price movement in the previous history version. So with DigiByte, you know, there's actually a good cause to say we go back down to 130 here in terms of accumulation, maybe even as low as 99. That's why I have the box drawn all the way to 67 Satoshis, because we actually have multiple year history all the way back to 2015 and probably further as well. I mean, look at this red candle that came down from DigiByte in 2014. All the way up at 9,935 Satoshis. And to be very fucking blunt and honest about the whole thing, excuse me for anyone that has children around, I'm yelling, we're exposing them to how real life works earlier. So if you don't like my swearing, I apologize, but at least your kids will be more mature. But again, I don't, YouTube doesn't seem to care. I don't know, maybe they do. I'm not entirely sure. I guess all hail the people that censor us. It's a horrible thing to say, but it seems to be the truth. If YouTube doesn't like me doing it, I'd probably stop. I'd be like, oh great, now I can't like, I'm gonna lose my audience. Anyways, I'm going on long-winded rants. So Digibyte actually has a lot of room for growth. Like if we can compare Digibyte and Raven's price right now, Digibyte offers a lot of the same valuable characteristics as Raven, but is 6 times cheaper almost right now, right? So this is one of the reasons why I do accumulate assets in this group that are undervalued. Now, if you're just the average investor and you're hodling, this is maybe not a great situation because look at the time frame here for Digibyte. So if you put like $1,000 in here, you would have turned it into a quarter million, like almost a $500,000 or something, like a 10,000% return on $1,000. That's 100x return, so 100 times 10,000 is almost a million. Jesus Christ. So if you sat in this position and you didn't come back for a year and a half, like you lost almost all of it, right? So this is for people that are on top of the markets every day, in out, in out. Because if you can't look at this, what's this the time frame here for this? 21 days for 1,533% return. And that's just outside. I mean, you're already at the mid-range of the bear claw for that. So if you're not wide awake, dreaming, and watching these charts, you're going to miss all the potential there. So I definitely think this is not for the faint of heart, but we've definitely reached a very low area of consolidation. And in the past, when we had gone this low with Digibyte, look at the previous extension from this entry area, all the way up into 1,000%. Again, this is a 10x. This is a 10x return in 35 days. It's just crazy. So these are more like bets. I do consider these more like bets, mostly because these are all asymmetrical bets, just like Bitcoin was. You know, Digibyte could go to 50 Satoshis and lose 50% of its or 60% of its price from where it's at. But if it spikes up again and you're there for those 31 days when it does it, you're talking a five times return. That you're not going to worry about that 30 or that 60% temporary loss. So anyways, a very, very short kind of out of the blurb idea. I know ranting is one of my favorite things to do. That's why I get lost in this. Look at the green area up here. So again, I think what's important here is to notice the relationship of undervalued assets, whether it's Litecoin or any of the others, and then how they move against Bitcoin's price. Because in my mind, they're acting like leverage bets that don't let you get wrecked by companies like BitMEX and don't get you wiped out totally. In something like Litecoin, it almost always, in all of its history so far, has come back to previous highs in relationship to Bitcoin. And if you're like me and you only care about how many Bitcoin you have, then this is a great way to trade because all you have to do is wait it out. You may be waiting a long time, and this is why the hodler mentality does prove some type of benefit. If you had bought at the high of Litecoin's price here, which is probably around, what was this? 2015, I think it was like $23 or something at this time. If anyone remembers. Anyways, point of this is you would have had to wait approximately 2 years before it came back up to the previous relationship with Bitcoin. Again, we've seen that actually procure much quicker flips nowadays. But again, I think the important part here is just to recognize that those things happen. If I got stuck in a trade with Litecoin, I wouldn't mind. So fundamentally speaking, these are much better ways to go for people. So that's why I've been trying to share this thesis a bit more broadly, even though we're not going to speak specifically. I do want to thank all the private Bear Den members for helping all this kind of stuff come to life. It means a lot to me, and I know the value for other people is huge as well. So again, if you are new to the Bear family, remember to give us those thumbs up if you like this content. If you think we do a horrible shit job and make shit content, give us a thumbs down and leave us a comment about what you didn't like or what you did. Remember to go join our group Telegram channel. Those are all free. We're actually going to be sending out our free newsletter as well. I think twice a month we're going to do big overviews of the news for everyone. So if you want, you can go to arcanebear.com and sign up for the free newsletter. If you're interested in the more advanced trading theses that we dive into and into depth, go take a look at the private community, which is arcanebear.com/club. I'll actually, let's see if I can open this up here. Last month's newsletter looked so awesome. I really want to show everyone. I'm really grateful for the Bear family for doing such a good job. I'm going to slide the recent newsletter over into the new screen here. So it's quite nice to see something so beautiful come together, and I'm really stoked about the way these come across. Obviously Raven, I'll show you guys that one sat in the top of our thesis here. Anyways, I'm going to jump offline for the rest of the day. I will give myself around 5 minutes to answer some of your guys' questions and jump back and forth. So let's see if there are any. I'm going to reload my YouTube screen here because it has appeared to froze. Wait, did the whole stream freeze and I didn't notice? That's even possible nowadays. Did the whole stream freeze and Tiho didn't notice? No, it looks green. I have a green light, I think. I can't even tell. Anyways, let's take a look. Some of you guys have some questions here. Any thoughts on energy? Seems to be booming like most of the alts. Agree with your thoughts on jobs? Oh, actually, that's a great question. Let's dive in from there. We actually have Energy's CEO, Ryan Luchette. I hope I didn't say his name wrong. If I did, I apologize. They were actually big fans of Energy. They become kind of a partner in the building scope of things. We started looking them back in September. They've gone up 400% since then. Let's take a look at the overview on the longer term frames. Where's the 7-day, 14-day? It's not letting me. Oh, there we go. That's why. Okay, so on the 1 year time frame, when we started looking at them back here in September, they were at 34 cents, and they've skyrocketed all the way up to $4.19. So it's nice. They've doubled in. Oh, look, and this too. Since June 5th till June 16th, in the last 10 days, they've doubled in price. Really glad you guys showed me that. Again, we think Energy is doing some great stuff in the ecosystem. I think more companies like this are going to be necessary and important. So I look forward to the podcast that we have with their CEO in the next few days. Again, I don't trade Energy; it just sits. We bought a little back in September when we had our interview with them, and I had actually basically forgotten about it until you mentioned it. Mostly because I don't try not to buy too much in these. These are all asymmetrical bets for me. I make them walk away monies. But then there's moments like this where like, oh hey, look, it's up a lot higher than it was before. Let's actually take a look at their market cap too while we're here. This will be nice to see. Yeah, so market cap went from around $1 million, and we're currently wow, $71 million market cap. Congratulations, Energy. That's a beautiful jump. Again, this is why I think it's interesting to see partners and growth build in the ecosystem. It's just a beautiful way to go. Anyways, we'll leave it off at that. Hats off to Energy. Hats off to all the Bear family for having such a great ride together. It's been one hell of a day. I'm super excited to see what comes next. I'm going to leave you guys all off with my favorite sentiments. A little bit of silence.